everyone, welcome to Developing Success. This is Neha Agarwal. So today we are doing the topic of biosphere reserves, which is a very important topic in every competitive examination. Whether it be UPSC or SSC or CDS or any kind of defense exams, it is important for all. So questions are asked from this topic in the geography section or in the environment section. Both sections question can be asked. Plus, apart from that, because we have 18 biosphere reserves in India, mapping also becomes an important thing in this chapter. Okay, so let's begin with the lecture. So, what is the concept of biosphere reserve? So, from where have this concept come? So, let me tell you a small background that apart from biosphere reserves, we have national parks in India. We all know that. And also wildlife sanctuaries in India. So, both these national parks and wildlife sanctuaries are defined under the Wildlife Protection Act, which was enacted by the Parliament in 1972. That means this act has this definition of both national park and wildlife sanctuaries, and they are a defined term in India. But the biosphere reserve is not defined by any law or piece of legislation in India. You will not find any mention by the Environment Ministry, by any kind of law or policy making about the biosphere reserves. So from where are we getting the concept of biosphere reserves? So we are getting the concept of biosphere reserves from UNESCO. So UNESCO is a United Nations organization, and this organization actually helps to preserve the educational purposes, to preserve the culture, to preserve the scientific tempora in the worldwide. So what is the full form of UNESCO? United Nations Education, Scientific, Cultural Organization. So this is the full form. And UNESCO in 1971 launched a program with the name of MAB. So the full form of MAB is Man and Biosphere. Okay. So from the MAB program we get the definition, or we get the concept of biosphere reserves. So biosphere reserve is a completely foreign issue, is completely a foreign topic which every government, which every country has adopted. So why they have adopted? Because what do the biosphere reserves do? The biosphere reserves actually tell you the way how to conserve and how to sustainably use the resources of the nature. How to conserve and how to sustainably use the resources of the nature. So this is what is the basics of biosphere reserve. So I repeat for you. So biosphere reserve is a concept given by UNESCO in the year 1971. The name of the program is MAB, Man and Biosphere. And biosphere reserve actually was not mentioned in the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. But the Wildlife Protection Act mentions the wildlife sanctuaries and the national parks. I hope this is clear with you. So, who does the MAB status of biosphere reserves? Who declares the MAB status of biosphere reserve? So, very clearly it is written that biosphere reserves are designated under the Intergovernmental MAB program. So I just told you about the MAB program, which was launched in 1971 by the Director General of UNESCO following the decisions of the MAB International Coordinating Committee, which is called MAB ICC, International Coordinating Committee. Their status is internationally recognized. So actually, who gives the MAB status to any biosphere reserve in any country is this particular council, which is known as the International Coordinating Council of the MAB. Okay. So now you should know how are biosphere reserves recognized. So who gives them the definition? It's very simple. The biosphere reserves must contain a protected and minimally disturbed core area. So I'll tell you the zonation of the biosphere reserves. So biosphere reserves are actually divided into three zones, like the core area, the buffer area and the transition area. I will tell you in this lecture, but from here you should know that every biosphere reserve should have a protected area which is minimally disturbed. So minimally disturbed area is the core area. Core area is that area where any kind of human presence or any kind of human activity is not allowed. Okay, and the value of nature, the core area must be a biogeographical unit and should be large enough to sustain a viable populations representing all trophic levels. So let me tell you, the biosphere reserve actually is a big unit in which many national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, Ramsar sites can be located. Okay, so biosphere reserve is a big area which will be containing maybe one or two national parks, maybe one national park and two wildlife sanctuaries. So it is a bigger unit. Okay, now biosphere reserve in India or any part of the world are formed to achieve three objectives. Okay, three main functions. See, if we are making a particular reserve, if we are making a particular area from where we want to conserve the nature, conserve the biodiversity, then there should be some functions. Okay, so first function which we are fulfilling is conservation of biodiversity and cultural diversity inside the reserve. So see, first point is conservation of biodiversity, which is very easy to understand. You know that environment degradation is a issue of this century. Okay, so to conserve the environment we have to conserve the biodiversity, but this particular biosphere reserve is also saving the cultural diversity. That means we are also doing ecotourism, we are also doing agriculture inside the biosphere reserve. We are not eliminating them in the name of conservation, but we are going in sync, we are going in tandem. Okay, next point is economic development of the reserve, that is socio-culturally and environmental sustainable. So we are not stopping any of the economic activity going on in the biosphere reserve apart from the core area. So how are we conserving it? We are making it more sustainable. We are making it more socio-culturally sustainable so that the coming generations can also bear the fruits of our environment. Now the third point, to provide logistic support and achieve development through research, monitoring, education and training. So how will this conservation be coming into force? There will be some kind of research, the monitoring will be done, education will be imparted that how to conserve these biodiversity, and also the training, the particular training will be given so that the conservation stands fulfilled. So these are the three functions for which any of the biosphere reserves are actually made worldwide. Okay, and to remember here is that it is a world concept, it is a foreign concept, it is not being given by India particularly. Now, the zonation of biosphere reserve, it is very important. I will tell you the zones and in what zones what is allowed also I'll tell you, but first we need to know why this zonation is done. So, while countries maintain flexibility at the federal levels concerning the definition of the zone, so every country will have different laws, different policies in regard to the zonation. Some country will not allow tourism in the buffer area, some countries will allow tourism in the buffer area. So every country has a flexible kind of rules and policies in regard to the zonation. But when the zonation is done, these three components should be taken care of. First, conservation should be fulfilled. Second, sustainable utilization of tools. So whatever resource, whatever things are present in the biosphere reserve, use should not be stopped, because if use will be stopped, the economic development will be hampered. So to go on with the economic development, a sustainable method should be used so that the coming generations can also bear the fruit. and also knowledge generation. So this is a very important topic, that whenever you do the zonation, the knowledge generation should not be stopped, because these biosphere reserves, these national parks, these wildlife sanctuaries, they are actually the place of study for the students of zoology, botany, and the environmentalists also. So that knowledge generation should not be stopped. Now we move on to the zonation. What kind of zonation we are talking? So I'll tell you that any biosphere reserve will be having at least 3 defined areas. Okay? This is how a particular biosphere reserve will be looking like. In this particular biosphere reserve, there will be one national park. Maybe this national park is situated in this area. There will be some wildlife sanctuary. Maybe there is another national park. So as I told you, that biosphere reserve is a bigger area. Now I'll define the things in the biosphere reserve. So first is the core area. First, second is your buffer area, and third is your transition area. You can call them zones also, like the core zone, the buffer zone, and the transition zone. Now let me tell you that in the core zone, no human presence will be allowed. The core zone will allow no human presence, no activity. So this part of the forest, this part of the environment will be completely remaining virgin and untouched. Okay. The second is the buffer area. So in the buffer area, things allowed will be research. Things allowed will be in relation to education. And then we also allow ecotourism. And sometimes agriculture too, because agriculture also is a process of forest regeneration. So with the agriculture, the crops are sown, and obviously the carbon dioxide balance is maintained on the earth. So agriculture is not a problem till it is sustainable. Okay, so these things are allowed in the buffer area. And in the transition area, we allow tourism, which is normal tourism, okay, jungle safari and all. We also allow ecotourism, obviously, when we are allowing it in buffer area, so transition area will be there. Also, apart from tourism and ecotourism, some kind of settlements are also allowed. See, many people, these definitions like these, the biosphere reserve, have come into force since 1971. And if we talk about national park and wildlife sanctuary, they have come into force since 1972. So before that, many of the tribal populations, many of the tribal settlements were there into these kind of forests. So they are actually too much in sync with the forest environment, not like us, not like the people who have urbanized the world, but they actually know how to use the forest produce, how to regenerate them, and how to conserve them. So these settlements are also allowed in the transition zone, and sometimes when the Supreme Court passed some judgment, some rare case, then this buffer area also allows these settlements. But the only area which is totally untouched is the core area. Okay, so core area is the totally untouched area. So this is how the zonation is done in a biosphere reserve. So any biosphere reserve will be having some kind of zonation, and in case of India we have a zonation like this. Okay, so now we have the World Network of Biosphere Reserves, which is actually defined by the MAB. So the UNESCO World Network of Biosphere Reserves comprises globally recognized protected areas referred to as biosphere reserves, which are intended to illustrate a balanced link between the people and the environment. Obviously, any kind of conservation we are doing for the benefit of the mankind only. Okay, so if the mankind is not benefited, we don't have to conserve and we don't have to talk about the sustainable use. So they are created as part of the MAB program, Man and Biosphere program. So whosoever actually qualifies the criteria given by the UNESCO, they get the MAB status. So many of the environment ministries of many countries, what will they do? They will identify some area, they will designate some area as the biosphere reserve. Then they will send this application to the UNESCO. UNESCO will be sending volunteers. UNESCO will be checking the area that does this area actually qualify to become a biosphere reserve or not? And if the UNESCO is convinced that it is getting feel that this area can be conserved as a biosphere reserve, then only the MAB status is given. Otherwise, the MAB status is simply not given. So, as you can see that we have a map which identifies some of the which identifies all of the biosphere reserves in the world, and as you can see in the 134 nations, in 134 nations we have around 738 biosphere reserves, including 22 transboundary locations. So what do you mean by transboundary? Transboundary means a particular biosphere reserve is located in more than one country. So that is transboundary, or more than one continent also. That is more than one country or a continent, we call it transboundary. So 738 biosphere reserves in 134 nations. So that shows that Earth is blessed with all the reserves, with all the fossils, with all the flora and fauna which the mankind uses for its prosperity, to prosper and growth. Okay, so we have to save them generally. Now, there are 18 biosphere reserves in India, okay, and we have to know all of them. You can't skip because many of the questions can be asked. So in the 18 biosphere reserve, the first one is the cold desert biosphere reserve. This is present in the Himachal Pradesh. The Pin Valley National Park is into this biosphere reserve, cold desert. Second is Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve, present in the state of Uttarakhand. So we have Nanda Devi National Park, we have Nanda Devi Valley of Flowers National Park in this biosphere reserve. Then we have Sikkim. In Sikkim we have Kanchendongsa. In the Kanchenjunga hill sector we have this Kanchendonga Biosphere Reserve. Then in Arunachal we have Dihang Dibang. So Dihang Dibang, because it is present on the basins of the Dihang and the Dibang river, which finally joins each other and becomes Brahmaputra in the state of Assam. Okay. Next is Dibru Shekhowa. This is present in Assam in the Dibrugarh part. Next is Manas. This is also present in Assam on the basins of Manas river, which is coming from Bhutan and draining the Assam state. And next is the Nokrek. Nokrek is present in Meghalaya in the Garo Hills section. So these are some of the northern biosphere reserves of India. Then we have Sundarbans in West Bengal. So Sundarbans is a tiger reserve also, is a biosphere reserve also, national park obviously, and then they are the UNESCO World Heritage Site also, and they have the largest reserves of mangroves. They have the largest reserves of mangroves forest in India. Okay, and world over they have around 5% population of mangroves. Sundarbans, important location. Then we come to the westernmost part of India, that is Rann of Kutch. So the Rann of Kutch Biosphere Reserve is actually located on the Indus Basin. Then we have Panna Biosphere Reserve, present in the Panna region of Madhya Pradesh, where we have the Panna Tiger Reserve also, where we have the Khajuraho Temple also, the Panna reserves. Then we have Achanak Mar Amarkantak. So it is a transboundary biosphere reserve, where we have some part it is in Chhattisgarh and some part is in Madhya Pradesh in the Amarkantak hills. The name is Achanak Mar Amarkantak. Next we have Pachmadi in the Satpura hills, the Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve. Then we have Simlipal in Odisha in the Mayurbhanj districts. Next is Sheshachalam Biosphere Reserve. This is present in Andhra Pradesh in the hill sector, that Nalamala, Eramala, Velikonda, Palikonda. These are the hill sectors in the Andhra Pradesh which we call Eastern Ghats, and in the southern part of this hill sector presents the Sheshachalam. And next is the Nilgiri, which is a very important biosphere reserve. It is a biosphere reserve present in 3 states. So tri-junction border we have 3 states. Those are Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. And in this tri-junction border is present the Nilgiri hills, and around the Nilgiri hills whatever forest is there, it has been termed as the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserves. So we have some important tiger reserves in like Bandipur, like Mudumalai, like Sathyamangalam. These are some of the tiger reserves, national parks present in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. And Nilgiri is the first biosphere reserve in India also. Next is the Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserves, which is also present in the Cardamom Hills and Agasthamalai Hills section in the borders of Tamil Nadu and Kerala in the Western Ghats, in the southern part of the Western Ghats, which we call as Southern Sahyadris. And next we have Gulf of Mannar. This biosphere reserve is present on the sea, on the Gulf area. The Gulf of Mannar is present in between India and Sri Lanka, and that is why the Gulf of Mannar. And last one is Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserve in the Nicobar Islands of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So these are the 18 biosphere reserves in India, and we have to mug up, we have to actually learn it in such a way with this map, so that any question in regard to the location or in regard to the biosphere reserves match the following. Any question if comes from this part, we are able to answer. And it's not very difficult to memorize or understand also, because of too much of factual topic, this one particularly. And here I have given you a chart about the location, what I discussed with you just now. Okay, and if you see, so this is the list of biosphere reserves where we have the MAB status. Okay, so Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve in Tamil Nadu has the MAB status. What do you mean by the MAB status? As I told you, the MAB status is given to those biosphere reserves whom the UNESCO thinks that it qualifies to be a biosphere reserve according to their criteria. Okay? So Indian government has given some 18 biosphere reserves to us, but the MAB status has been acquired by only 12. Another 6 has not been given the MAB status by the UNESCO. So first one which was given the MAB status was Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, Tamil Nadu. Then we have Gulf of Mannar, again Tamil Nadu. Sundarbans, obviously it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, West Bengal. Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserves, Uttarakhand. Pachmadi, Madhya Pradesh. Nokrek, Meghalaya. Simlipal, Mayurbhanj, Odisha. Achanakmar, Amarkantak, Chhattisgarh. Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserve in Great Nicobar. And then we have Agasthamalai Biosphere Reserve in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Then we have Kanchendongsa Biosphere Reserve, and then we have Panna. So let me tell you, in 2018, the Sikkim Kanchendonga was given the MAP status, 2018. And in 2020, the latest one which has been given the MAP status is the Panna Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh. So apart from that, Nanda Devi is having the MAP status. Nokrek is having, Sundarban, Simlipal, Achanakmar, Amarkantak, Panchmari, obviously Nilgiri, Agasthamalai, Gulf of Mannar, and obviously this Great Nicobar also. So these are the biosphere reserves which have got the MAP status. So this was all about the biosphere reserves. If you have any doubt in regard to this topic, you can post your doubt in the comment section and I will be happy to help you. Thank you so much and take care.